Children of Boredom, Death Angel, and Tear. Welcome Ornamental to the 2014 Halo Blood Tour. Florida's freshest fruit metal joins the tour on Saturday, March 15, Sunday, March 16. Then on May 30th, Ornamental will release their self-titled full-length album via a special album release concert at the Culture Room in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Join Ornamental. Únanse a Ornamental.
Hey everybody, this is Monty Pittman. I'm here in New York at Sony Red. I'm about to ignite everybody here with an acoustic guitar, so put your horns up, one way or the other.
You're here because you have a new album.
Yeah, I got a new album out. It's called The Power of Three, and it's on Metal Blade Records. And you can get it anywhere and everywhere that you can get CDs. And check it out. It's got 10 songs on it. It's a heavy album. It was produced by Flemming Rasmussen. And it's my third album. That's why it's called The Power of Three. One of the reasons. And we've got a video for the song Before the Morning Sun. And you can see that. And check it out. You're going to check it out.
So what do you tell us about the inspiration of the album? Because I know obviously you're a very well-traveled musician. You see a lot, both on stage, off stage. So what inspired you this time around, especially musically? What drives you?
Well, a lot of it came from me doing my live shows and seeing what I needed to have live. Because I started playing acoustic shows because that way I didn't have to worry about can another band member do a gig, and I would get to where I'd have to turn down gigs because not having everybody in town to do it. So I started playing on my own. And then from there I started playing with a drummer and a bass player. And then just as time went on, the shows grew. Like I got better set times and better slots, better gigs. And so from there, I was like, okay, I need some faster songs, and I need to crank it up a notch. I need some heavier songs. And at the same time, I kind of hit a full circle moment. I don't really know any other way to explain it, but where all of the influences that I had growing up playing guitar came out in my songwriting. And so I made these demos. I didn't know really what was going to happen. I kind of thought maybe I would just one day make a heavy album for fun. And I had a day off in Copenhagen, and I got with Flemming Rasmussen, and we recorded an acoustic EP. And when I gave him all of my demos, he said, "What are these heavy songs that you have?" And I said, "Just something, I feel like I've done that. I played in prong, and I had a heavy band in Texas when I grew up." And he said, "This is what you need to be doing." He said, "The other stuff is great and all that, but you need to focus on this." And I said, "All right then, well, I'll come back with the band and we'll record this heavy album." So we did that. We recorded The Power of Three. And then I was just going to release it on my own, but I felt like there's got to be somebody out there who would want to get behind this. And as fate would have it, Brian Slagle and I were going to get together and have coffee or lunch or whatever. And I said, hey, I had told him before we were going to record with Flemming, and I told him, I said, I said, let me play this for you, and what do I do with this? And when he heard it, he was like, I'll take it. And I was like, really? I had no idea that would even be a possibility. And so that's what brings us to now.
You are a very busy musician with Madonna, right? And what are the main differences that you see yourself when you're writing, let's say, the heavy stuff versus the pop stuff? Because obviously it's all music. I have a lot of respect for anybody who steps on any stage and does anything and is successful at it. But what are the main differences when you're playing heavy stuff versus the more of the pop-oriented things?
Well, a gig like Madonna, it's more about what you don't play rather than what you do play. And you don't want anything to step on the vocals. And then you have like in Madonna's band, you have 2 keyboard players, you got a drummer, 2 backing singers, and there's a lot in that music. So it doesn't always require for a lot of guitar playing. Usually, like in the song Music, for example, it's one guitar lick that goes over and over again. But then if you have a song like Don't Tell Me, you have a kind of an intricate kind of guitar part that you're playing, and then that's pretty much the whole song. On Secret, there's a lot of really nice chords in there, so there's a lot to play there. It's everything is different. Ray of Light, there's 8 guitar parts in the multi-tracks of that. So what I would do for that is just consolidate them all together. When I'm doing my own gig, and playing heavy stuff, it's just straightforward. You just plug in and go.
And you also play acoustic. You do acoustic shows, as you were saying before.
Yeah, I do acoustic shows, and I love Ray LaMontagne and I love Decapitated equally. Those are 2 of my favorite groups that I would be listening to. I saw Ray LaMontagne play live at the Greek Theater in LA, and I was just like, oh my God, the guy's amazing. And then for heavy bands, I love, there's so many, especially right now, there's a lot of really cool bands, especially on Metal Blade, like Amon Amarth, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, Noctum, a lot of really cool stuff coming out. So, I mean, you probably see that a lot with guitar players, I'm guessing, that when you play guitar, you like acoustic and you like, just something that's fun to play on the guitar. I never really got into a lot of funk stuff. Just not that I don't like to listen to it, just it wasn't that exciting to play on the guitar. It's like one chord maybe, or like one string and one note throughout the whole song. But you take something like Rain and Blood, and there's a lot to play, and it's challenging.
So just as a guitarist, sometimes it's better to play less, or you need to be selective on when to play less and when to play more?
Well, one of the main facts in music is less is more, and it's all about balance. So somehow it balances out for me, because I'll play it like over the last decade. I would do a Madonna tour, and then when that was over, I would start doing a prong tour. And so they kind of, you would get maybe get tired of playing one thing, and then you have the complete opposite.
Right, the complete contrast.
Yeah, so it keeps everything fresh for me.
And I'm sure also a great learning experience because, obviously everybody wants to get to a certain stature of playing a big arena, the biggest arenas in the world, but you also got to be able to play the intimate shows with your people right in front of you, you know what I mean? But it's obviously a different dynamic.
Yeah, it is, and if you look at a band like Kiss or AC/DC, their music isn't too complex. And I don't know if that's, if they are consciously thinking that way, because when they play a chord or play a note, it gives it time, there's space for that chord to reach the back of the arena. And if you played some really complicated stuff, it would just sound like a bunch of noise from the sound bouncing, back and forth. I think that's one of the reasons bands like that make it to a stadium or a huge arena level.
Right. Why don't you tell us about your whole experience with Madonna as a rock musician, as a rock player? How did you land the gig, and how has it been working with such an icon of music?
Yeah, well, I started giving her guitar lessons, and we became friends from that. And then she asked me if I wanted to come on tour with her. She said, I'm going to go on tour, I'm going to need a guitar player, and I want you to keep teaching me. Why don't you play guitar for me? And I said, yeah, sure. I mean, that's not that. I don't think I would play with anybody else that's like a pop star unless it was her. And the way that happened is we became friends, and I was her guitar teacher. And so that's how so that was a different situation. It wasn't like I was going to an audition and trying out for someone.
Yeah, she trusted you and you trusted her, and obviously you're still doing it for that reason.
I actually did have to do, it wasn't an audition, it was just to play with her band. And this other guy was coming in, and I guess he didn't know any different, but he came in, he set up in front of me. And he was trying to show off, not knowing that we had already kind of been working together. Anyway, that was kind of funny. It was like, sorry, am I in your way here? So.
And starting her out as a guitar teacher, what were you teaching her?
I would for all of my students, I teach them, I see a lot of guitar teachers will teach, when a student comes to me and they've already had another teacher. They'll know D, they'll know C, they'll know E, and a couple of things like that, but those chords don't necessarily go together, because in C you would have D minor or E minor. So what I do is I teach you all your chords in the key of C, which is C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major or a G dominant 7, A minor, and a B diminished, and then back to a C, and then different forms of a C, C add 9, C major 7, so on and so forth, and then show you all the scales, all the scale patterns, or modes if you want to call them modes, all cut up in 5 sections on the neck. So like I can play the chords and then the student can play through the scales, or the student, or vice versa. So that's how I start all of my students. I show them chords and everything that they can use. And I started doing that because I never know when I'm going to get a call saying, hey, we're going to go on tour and we're going to do this. And so I show my students a lot of stuff at once. Where there's other people who would just show you one little thing, and you don't want to overwhelm them. And that's why I think a lot of students will just show, a lot of teachers will just show a couple of things, but I like to show like show the whole big picture and make that world on the guitar neck smaller from the beginning. And so as luck would have it, she'd just come out with her music album, and there was a lot of guitar on that. And so that was amazing that all that happened. And when that happened, it was the day I just started teaching her. No, I was teaching Guy Ritchie. They were dating at the time. Madonna had a new album out today, and I was like, oh, I should go get it. And I stopped what I was doing, and I went to the Virgin Megastore on the Sunset, and I got the music album just as they were closing. Had I been 5 minutes later, had I waited, I would not have gotten this CD. So I got the CD, I went home, I was listening to it, I was like, wow, Madonna's got some cool songs, actually. And, because that's not something I would have, listened to. Not that I wouldn't like it, but more of like Cannibal Corpse, The Bleeding, and I figured out all of the songs, and then the next morning I had a lesson with Guy, and I said, here, check this out. You should learn some of these songs and play them. And he was like, where did you get this? How did you get this? And I said, well, a CD came out yesterday. I figured it out. And he's like, you figured all this out last night? And I said, yeah, it's G, and here's A minor, G and D. And I think maybe that helped pave the way for everything to happen. Like, hey, there's this guy coming over to your house a few times a week, and he already knows all your songs. So I don't know. We'll never know.
It's obviously your dedication to what you do, right? I mean, otherwise, if you love the guitar, you love playing it. So
yeah,
you learn
I love
to play
playing
the parts
guitar, and she was so cool to me from day one. She's such a cool person to be in a band with. She's Madonna, but she likes being in the band too.
It is cool because, as you said, you're obviously a metalhead, you're a metal guitar player, but you're infiltrating pop that way as well, and you're teaching them, like, hey, there's a lot of great musicians in heavy metal. Because sometimes, as you know, and you know this...
Usually you find the best musicians in there because there's more to do, there's more to play. And, there's a lot of people, like, you could probably take... I don't want to say one person's better than the other, but you could probably take a metal guitarist that could play a lot of things that just a funk guitar player could do, but you get the funk guitar player to play the metal stuff, and I'm sure he could do it, but you know what I mean? It's like the metal guitar players they do a little bit of everything.